Good morning once again, and welcome to the Haven Financial Group. Thanks for listening this morning. Feel free to give us a call at 612-504-8400 with any types of retirement questions, tax questions, investment questions. We'd love to hear from you. Yes, we have Lance Larson, our in-house CPA, on with us today, Kim, digging down deep into taxes. And what about the sale of a home? People retire, home is where the heart is, but where is your money? And, taxes is on the other side. What makes the most sense? Let's discuss some of these things that people run into over their lifetime.
Well, Lance, let me ask you right off the bat, when you have retirees who come in and they say, listen, we want to downsize. Our home has been our biggest investment and we want to draw some money off of that investment now. What are some of the stumbling blocks, some of the issues that people face?
Well, the first one is deciding what to do with the house. So people, it's been their primary residence for a long time. And so selling it feels like they're losing a part of themselves. So I see a lot of people grappling with that decision of either selling it or possibly even just renting it out because they think, oh, we have a passive income stream by turning it into a rental. Well, there's going to be a lot of different tax ramifications depending on what you want to do with it. Mm-hmm. The simple way, of course, is to then just sell it and walk it away. And I would say probably 95+% of the people who do that end up paying no capital gains on their house because of what we call the primary home exclusion. And we look at it and we have our selling price, we have our basis, which means how much money we've put into it. The difference between that is our capital gain. Then we look and the question says, has this house been your primary residence for at least 2 out of the last 5 years? If so, then we can exclude up to $500,000 of the capital gain for a married couple or $250,000 for a single. So over a lifetime, a lot of people, they're not going to have a capital gain more than $500,000. And so they can sell their house, walk away, take all the cash from that and go live wherever they want and not pay a single dime in taxes.
Mm-hmm. So that would be an ideal situation. But what if there is capital gains?
So then the capital gains, typically they're going to be long-term capital gains because we've held the house for more than a year. And then for the portion of the capital gains that are taxable, they will either be taxed at 0, 15, or 20%, depending upon what your income is. And so we have to take that taxable portion of it, see where the rest of your income is. And as a safe general rule, we just typically plan for 15% for the feds, and we usually plan about 7 to 8% for Minnesota.
Okay. What if you did want to turn it into a rental property?
And that's when things get fun and interesting in my world. And so we have to look at it and say, all right, now that we're going to turn a property into a rental property, now we have to start keeping track of the income, the expenses. And the biggest thing we have to look at is what is your basis and how do we deal with depreciation on the house? And so at that point, we start getting these expenses. And typically a rental property is going to be a cash positive, but a tax negative, meaning that we're going to actually have a loss on your tax return for this. And that's because of that non-cash expense called depreciation. We get the nice benefits up front, then we have to then pay for it at the back end when we finally sell the house later on. Mm-hmm. And so this is where we have a lot of discussions saying, when do you think you're going to sell it? A lot of time with our tax discussions, we get into these decisions before we can actually make it. We have to know how we're going to get out of it at the end. And so when somebody wants to go through and say, hey, we want to be out of the house, okay, can we just sell it straight out and get the money and walk away? No, we need to turn it into a rental so we can have that as a cash flow issue. Okay. Once you start doing that, are you going to hold it until you pass away? Are you going to give it to your kids? You're going to have them turn it into, is this going to be the start of a rental portfolio for yourself. You start with one house here and then use that to buy a second house, then buy a third. And is this how we're going to fund retirement? And so we need to know what the end goal in mind is so that we can make sure we avoid as many taxes as possible.
What are some of the deductions that you can take from, having a rental property like that?
The typical ones we look at are going to be any type of repairs to the house, utilities if you're paying for that, property taxes, the insurance on the house, and then mortgage interest if you still have it on the house.
Okay.
Then from there, depending upon your situation, if you're going to have a management company manage it for you, then of course the management fees will become deductible. If you're part of an HOA, the HOA dues are deductible. And then we just kind of get into every specific for each and every house because every area is going to be a little bit different.
Okay. What's a 1031 exchange?
A 1031 exchange is one of the ways that we can get out of a house. And instead of realizing the capital gains in the current house, and this has to be a business property.
Okay.
So this is only going to be on a rental house right there. And what the law allows is that you can sell this current place that you have, this is current business property, and go buy a new one, such as if you're going to live here in Minnesota and you're renting out your house here. Then you decide to move somewhere else, South Dakota, Florida, Tennessee. These are the big places we see a lot. But we don't want to deal with a rental property in Minnesota when you're not even living here. And so people will sell their house through a 1031 exchange, which the government allows us to say, you know what, I don't want this place here. I'm just going to trade it for a new place down where I'm going to be at. And if you do this correctly, then there will be no taxable income at this point. It's not going to be until you liquidate and be completely done with that rental property that you will actually figure out what your capital gain is.
Lance, doesn't that have to all be done in the same year, calendar year? Am I wrong with that?
Typically, they want to be done, but it has to be done within 6 months. That is where with the 1031 exchange, there are some specific and hard deadlines that we have to hit. There are a lot of rules that we have to be following. And so when you're contemplating this one, yes, you'll want to make sure you have an advisor who knows the 1031. You'll also want to be working with the real estate agent who knows the 1031 rules there. Because unfortunately, with the IRS, a lot of the time, it is about substance over form. With the 1031 exchange, it's all about form over substance. And so if we don't cross all the T's and dot all the I's just right, then the 1031 can become invalidated and cause you to have a taxable event.
Sure. And if
I have really seen this botched up, Kim.
Yeah, I bet.
Several times. And so work with a professional that knows what they're doing, financial planner, advisor, real estate agent. Again, work with somebody that has experience in that. Just because I've seen it really botched, it can make a really big mess.
Yeah, I can only imagine. In going back to this idea of 6 months, if you sell your primary home and you have capital gains and you're moving elsewhere, do you have a certain amount of time to reinvest that money if you would decide that you were going to do that and skip the capital gains then?
Kim, that used to be the law a long time ago,
Okay.
where you would be able to roll the capital gain into the new house.
Right.
The IRS has gotten rid of that rule a little while back. And so now it is going to be a 1-for-1. So if you sell this house, you're going to realize the taxable event. You're going to pay the taxes on it today. Then you buy the next house. Then that's going to become a separate event. And you're not going to have this carry forward so that you have 5, 6, 7 houses worth of buying and selling, and then trying to figure out how much money you've put into all these houses over that lifetime.
Right.
It becomes a nightmare. And this is why the IRS has kind of gone away from that.
Buying and selling a house is challenging in and of itself. And then you add to it the idea of all the tax ramifications, and you're someone who's in retirement and you're trying to put this into your full tax strategy. I mean, this is challenging and this can be overwhelming. And if this all rings true for you, this is something that you anticipate maybe happening in your life in the next few months, maybe in the next couple of years, come in and sit down with Lance and put together a strategy before you put that for sale sign out in the front of your home. The number is 612-504-8400. Again, it's 612-504-8400. Call the folks at Haven Financial Group and let's sit down and talk about taxes associated with selling your property before you make that final decision. Coming up next, tax strategies. You know, they have opportunities, but they also can have some downsides. So let's talk about both right here on the Haven Financial Group radio show.